The agrarian and market reforms of Alauddin Khilji are such an important topic in history that they pop up at almost every level of our study, be it your senior school, your college degrees, or even sometimes your middle school. They just don't leave your back. And even though they are so important, only a small section of people do actually end up with a concrete understanding. And why? Well, they assume it's a complex topic, something that they wouldn't be able to understand, or probably they're not taught it well in the first go. So let's get this out of our way once and for all. Hi guys, welcome to Itihas. My name is Kriti, and in today's video we're discussing the agrarian and market reforms of Alauddin Khilji. What we need to know firstly is why were they brought about? Well, Alauddin Khilji wanted to achieve two major goals when he was looking for bringing about these changes. The first was internal restructuring of the Sultanate, and the second was he wanted to create a strong and a large army in order to deal with the threat of Mongols. And agrarian and market reforms, which would help in price control, could go a long way in helping him create this army, because then it would give the government or the Sultan more money in return to sustain such a big army. The main idea was to bring the villages in closer functioning with the government in the Ganga Yamuna Doab area. How was this done? By bringing the villages under the Khalisa land. Now, the Khalisa land is actually the land which is directly under the emperor or under the crown, and all the revenue from this land goes directly into the Sultan's treasury. So the entire tract of Ganga Yamuna Doab was converted into Khalisa land. Moreover, the land revenue here was increased to almost 50% of the total produce of the land. But apart from this, no extra cess or taxes were levied, apart from charai, which was a grazing tax, which was traditional, and a ghari, which was kind of like a house tax, from ghar. Now, what did this do? How and why was this policy change so important that it came to be known as a reform? The intermediaries who worked between the Sultan and the cultivators, like the Rais, Ranas, chiefs, Chaudhris, all the intermediaries between the two were the ones who were affected the most. Because Alauddin Khilji tried to have a direct contact with the masses in terms of their revenue, the power and authority of these middlemen was the one which was curbed, and many of them were even displaced. These chiefs had previously formed sections of rural aristocracy and were rich enough to ride horses and indulge in great wine-drinking parties. Now, once all the land was brought under Khalisa land, all these intermediaries were literally left jobless. Plus, now they had to pay their own set of taxes, which earlier they didn't. So the first impact was on our middlemen. The second impact was also on our cultivators or our villagers. Now, obviously, they did benefit from the fact that middling chiefs or these middlemen were removed from their path, but it also had a slightly negative impact on them. You see, the market reforms, which we'll discuss in just a minute, left the cultivator with very little, because Alauddin had this idea in his head that if the masses are left with any sort of surplus of any kind, that would help in a revolt or a revolution or a rebellion later on. Therefore, forget the middlemen, he even wanted his own cultivators to live with just enough for the sustenance. Alauddin Khilji was probably the first medieval ruler who looked at the problem of price control in a very systematic manner and was able to maintain stable prices for a considerable amount of time. For this, Alauddin set up three markets at Delhi. The first was for food grains. The second was for luxury items like cloth of all kind, or ghee or sugar, some things which have a longer shelf life. While the third market was for horses and cattle and slaves. Let's firstly look at the food grain market at Delhi. To keep the food prices in control, you need to take care of three major things: constant supply from the villagers, unhindered transportation to the city by grain merchants, and the proper distribution of grain to the people, to the citizens. These three are important aspects of controlling food prices. So, for ensuring a good supply of grains, Alauddin made sure that there were sufficient stocks with the government. In this scenario, traders could not hike up the prices by creating an artificial scarcity, because the government would always have some backup. For unhindered transportation to the city by grain merchants, who were also known as banjaras, Alauddin had them settle on the banks of Yamuna with their wives and children and their entire goods and slaves. At normal times, these banjaras brought in so much grain to the city that the government stocks didn't need to be touched. The second market, which sold goods which had a longer shelf life like cloth, ghee, etc., luxury products, was known as Sarai-e-Adl. Alauddin ordered that all the cloth brought by merchants from different parts of the country, including foreign land, was to be sold only in this market at government rates. If any commodity was sold at a higher price than what was officially decided, it would be confiscated and the seller would be punished. Moreover, to ensure an adequate supply of commodities at all the times, all the merchants, be it Hindus or Muslims, were registered and a deed was taken from them that they would bring in the commodities that they have been bringing to Sarai-e-Adl every year in the same quantities and sell them at government prices. The third market dealt with horses, cattle, and slaves. The horse trade was riddled with middlemen and dalals. Some of these dalals were as powerful as the officials of the market, and they were shameless in their dealings, resorting to bribery and corrupt practices. Alauddin took harsh measures against such dalals. They were banished from towns and some of them were imprisoned in forts. Soon, the quality and the prices of horses was fixed, which helped regulate the horse trade. Now, conclusively, one of the biggest drawbacks in studying the market reforms of Alauddin Khilji is that we don't know how these market reforms performed in areas other than Delhi. Moreover, as Alauddin tried to control the prices of almost everything, from vegetables to socks to needles, there was bound to be some sort of resentment among the masses. And that is why his reforms turned out to be extremely temporary in nature, and many of them were reversed as soon as some of his successors came to power. Well, this video kind of sums up our Khilji saga. Do check out some of the other videos on Alauddin Khilji on the channel, which include first ever recorded interfaith marriage alliances and the truth about Jayazi's Padmaavat. I hope this video was simple in its understanding. If you liked what you saw, don't forget to share it with your friends and family so that learning and reading history can become more than just a textbook activity. See you next time.